Good morning, everybody. I hope you're not asleep in this dark and little room. So it'd be quite good to leave it like that, with some also some pictures, but no video. So I come from the University of Southampton, and I'm in a group of academics who are interested in the interface between science and engineering and social science, and we work in many areas related to energy. My talk today will be about energy for development and opportunities that are going to be made available to villages in East Africa. And we term energy for development as being something which is really crucial for human development. Without reliable energy, we cannot have a sustainable living standard, no development, and the lifestyle is rather poor. And statistics indicate that there are 1.2 billion people with no electricity, and about 2.8 people rely on biomass for cooking and heating. If you think also in terms of the people who have power cuts in cities as well, those have no reliable electricity as well. And the majority of these people are in sub-Saharan Africa and also in Southeast Asia, and 85% of them are in rural areas. So access to electricity not only transforming life, but also provide opportunities to enhance and develop a whole community as a whole to be much more sustainable, and also provide longevity and capacity building within that, by providing as well services like education and also health provisions. So in relation to rural communities, issues related to supply of electricity could come from renewable energy sources, but we also know that these resources are variable, temporally as well as regionally variable. If you look in terms of the solar resource, you can see the indication of the intensity of the solar resource around the globe. There is also the problem with the initial capital cost that one has to recover, but we know that the fuel is free. If renewable energy is not being able to be provided, I think we should also consider fossil fuels that take into account the cost of these in relation to the fuel, the maintenance and supply chain. What I'm saying here is that we should not stop providing electricity to people because we are really hung up about renewable energy. We should also try and get it coming to these villages, whatever technology we have. But we need to take into account quite a lot of things that are already existing in these communities. The first thing is the natural resource. So we should be technology agnostic, really. Micro, hydro, solar, wind, whatever it is that we need to have. But we need to understand those in terms of those communities that we try to serve. And what are the local abilities in there? Because societies will differ, not only in a country, but also across the region. And we need to make sure that we are not actually putting something in there that is going to be end up as a white elephant. We need to have system design which are robust, less complex. Because the fact that they are in rural communities, it is very, very important to actually anticipate what you're going to come up with in the next 5 to 10 years in relation to these systems. So understanding the loads is really an important parameter. And as it is a system that has got no backup, we need to think about the storage system. We already had a comment about lithium-ion batteries. These are in rural communities not available, so we need to think about things that's really available there. You could have water storage if you want, or you could have battery storage if you're using PV or wind. One also important issue is supply chain. You don't want the villages or wherever you're going to intervene in to be reliable on a country like the UK or the US or China or whatever it is. You need to have the supply chain already in place, and that also combined with capacity and technical support that need to be developed within any intervention project. And the capacity building does not really just approaches the technical aspect of it, but also the social, economic aspect. Bookkeeping is one of the things that we need to think about in relation to interventions in these communities. And again, the message is that we should not stop these rural communities from not having electricity. If the only solution there is actually providing them with a diesel generator, I think we should provide them with that. So this used to be an animated slide, so I'll just go through it very quickly. And this actually is in comparison with what happened in the past in my experience, where you have a donor intervenes, does the project, say, okay, well done, takes the pictures, goes away, and there is no sustainability pathways to that project. And this is, I think, what we need to do. Basically looking at getting a local investment, whatever way you can generate it, even if you are a donor or not. You have to have the community at the center of it, make them really interested in it, and they're prepared to run it, and you provide them with training both in the governance as well as in the technical aspect of it, and you revenue generate, and hopefully that thing will be sustainable. So how can such an intervention or project be financed? Well, you can get a grant like we did, but also you need to go beyond the grant, because it's all about replication. So in my interactions with the entities in Kenya, East Africa, I wanted to look at the capital cost, operating costs, and income generation that's going to be provided by the project. But also I wanted to look about how to create a bank, a microfinance for the community. So the first one, the capital cost, is already given in the grant. Thank you very much for the funders. But the other two are very important, the operation cost and the income generation. One of the two important hurdles for rural energy, for rural electrification authorities across East Africa. Because if we can get that sorted out, I think we will have many projects into the areas of mini-grids. So I had a lot of meetings with banks, microfinancing companies, the government and so forth to try and sort it out. And everybody was very nice and so forth. Unfortunately, we could not come up with the goods to allow us to say we can get a reliable microfinancing entity within the project. So we started to think differently. And this is really what the Energy for Development project is all about. So here's the title of the project. We shorten it to E4D, or Energy for Development. And it's about people. It's actually looking at the aspiration of the people. So we had a survey to start with, a quick survey, a needs survey, where we had the community around. And we said, money is no object, what would you like to have? So we listed this. Half an afternoon really to do that. And then we looked into detail in a baseline survey for the communities that we surveyed at the time. And that entails the assessment of social, cultural issues, and also the processes within the communities. Who is the chief? What are the relationships between the local government and so forth? The structures needed to actually to create a community. And then the second bit is about the product, which is basically technology implementation. And that is something that we know a lot about. So for me, it's something that you can just tick the box. We can do PV, we can do wind, we can do micro hydro, no problem. So that system needs to be modular, optimized solution to give the best approaches to the communities that you are trying to implement. And the last bit is also very important. The first and the last bit are really important, which is basically about the process. How you establish a robust energy supply system, coupled with the governance. How are you going to run it, and so forth? How is going to be responsible for the money? How are you going to get accreditation by the government for the community, and so forth? And how you develop the capacity building, and I mentioned that before. And how do you develop social benefits to the communities that you have, and also wealth generation. So it's really embedded in these things. And the last one, which is actually the criteria of how projects succeed, is replication. Can we actually develop learning entities that we can take away from this project to allow other projects to learn from and actually say this is worthwhile and we need to do it. And I hope to tell you more about that. And if you are interested, there is a website about the project, and these are the work packages which I won't go into them. But we are engineers, we're social scientists, and also management people who actually work on that. So our aims is to establish and implement easy to replicate off-grid electricity. We really wanted to address elements of the Millennium Development Goals. When the project was given to us before, we wanted to look at well-being, poverty alleviation, and also health. We need to look at tailor-made solutions for East Africa, for targeted communities, and also to produce the tools that I mentioned earlier that has a longevity in financial capability of the community, and also address the societal and well-being impacts. And again, the tools to replicate. So various possibilities that we can have to actually for the provision of this. And these are things that I already mentioned, some of these I mentioned before, which is basically the initial setup and technology cost, the funding streams that you need to have from that to allow sustainability, the holistic approach that you need to get that, can link up technology as well as governance, and also the revenue generation. But one thing which is extremely important is that you don't want to mess up with what's already been working within the community. You want to go into a community and actually enhance what's there. If there are businesses working and having batteries, car batteries in there, you want to enhance what they're doing by providing them with the facilities that they need in there. So basically invigorate the whole village rather than actually take away some of the businesses that already exist in there. And many of the villages that we surveyed have got educational establishments. You've got one or two schools, they've got health centres or maybe dispensary and so forth. And that's the sort of thing that you need to think about. There are also places of worship that you need to get people to be involved with. But the most important thing is really about the businesses that are around within the community and how you invigorate those, because that will permeate out to the whole of the community. And many of the business owners in there are actually community members that we have in there. And then basically the last bit is about capacity building and how you retain these capabilities within the village rather than them going away after you train them. So here's our concept and delivery plan. Invigoration of the villages, hopefully through the power production from whatever technology that we need to have. So we need to develop, or we have developed the community-based cooperative, which is supported by legislation from the Kenya government, that has self-governance, that has provision of finance and entrepreneurship in that. We have an income generation through membership fees and shares, and also electric power sales. So I mentioned before about the banks not trying to get this to be sorted out. And we couldn't get that sorted out. We went and had a meeting with the community. We signed up within half an afternoon 150 people to have membership fees straight away. That gave us the capital to start to appoint a manager, a security person and so forth straight away. And that also created for you the bank, the community bank, that people could go. Any member had benefits from that membership in relation to the energy they use and in relation to the kit that they're going to buy, and also in relation to expanding their businesses. They can go for a loan to the community and do that. So we got that in place, and now we have the way to link up the mini-grid. Well, we took the view that we need to connect up only the businesses that are in the center of the village, because if you look at some of the African areas that we actually surveyed, the households are totally dispersed. And the amount of money you need to actually expand the grid to those areas is really quite huge. So by actually doing the center of the village, you create this nucleus for them to start it. And you connect up all the things that are in there to around. And then you can see what happens after that. And I'll tell you about it as we go along. For the community outside the center of the village, there is a provision for them to have LED lanterns, and they can buy that for the community at a reduced rate, and they can pay for it for hire purchase, so they pay it on a monthly basis and so forth. Those who can afford more, they can, in the second phase of the project, you can actually go and buy a larger battery, an inverter. You can run the TV if you wanted to, or if you want to have any AC device that you need to have. And that's really possible. Later on in the project, what we did, I'm saying this now, is that we supplied all the kit in relation to lighting through a local company within the city, which is about 20 kilometers from the village. And that's DC lighting that they can buy up and actually charge 2 points, and they can charge mobile phones, things like that. And then the income generation for running and management, the manager, also the community management committees, as well as steering committees, and also the assembly, and also working and paying for the capital or any additional investment needed. For example, if you need a technician to come and connect some more within the village, then you can have that in place. And that, for us, provided a community that actually has the development pathway, and the evidence is there now to actually indicate that actually is working, because what I'm going to tell you later on, and the evidence that we have gained, and the cohesion is becoming more and more within that community. So here's where we have, it's a place called Katinyoni, 130 kilometers outside Nairobi, southeast of Nairobi. Here's an image of the place. So before we wanted to do the interview, we need actually to understand, and there was a mention, I think Stephen mentioned before, about where the main grid and the village is, and the proximity is very, very important parameter that we need to have. So we had as a partner the Rural Electrification Authority in Kenya, but we don't have a knowledge base. We don't have, for example, a geographical information system to tell them where the grid is going, where it's going in the next 10, 5 years and so forth, where the intervention should have. So we developed that. And I mentioned before, we also had the baseline survey to looking at aspirations and so forth. We've done the community structures and so forth. And the last bit is the engineering, which is actually about how you design the system for that purpose. So having the knowledge of the village, you know what system you define, how you operate it, and what business case you have to have for that. And then hopefully the replication for that. So here's one bit of the knowledge base I was mentioning. So we developed one of the most sophisticated GIS systems for Kenya, where you can have all the schools in it, you have all the rivers in it, all the streams, the roads, the grid, the health centers and so on. So you can actually map anything you want. So you can zoom into that and you can map it. That gives us also the population density, and I mentioned before density of villages in Africa being slightly different than what they experience in Asia. And then you can have a matrix, a decision matrix that allows you to think about where you're going to be. For example, you can intervene, the criteria they gave us in the rural electrification, 20 kilometers off the grid, you'll be okay. The grid will not be there in the next 10 years. So that's what we've done. We looked at 20 kilometers from the grid, where the population density of 50 people per square kilometer. And that's basically one of the criteria matrix that we have. And we've been applying this in many other countries in Africa. The same approach, by the way. And here are the two selected villages from this Makueni district in Kenya. Katinyoni, where we have the intervention, and Mwani, which is the control community. So if you're going to do an intervention, you need to think about what are the differences between the two. And also, you want to look about the Millennium Development Goals and what is the improvement that you have. So we asked them in terms of the lighting. Do households own and use paraffin lanterns? So the dots tell you that all of them, I would say the majority of them actually own and use a paraffin lantern. And then we asked them about where they charge the mobile phones. If you have a lighting kit or anything else, and then you can see the distribution that the majority of them don't have electricity, but they do quite a lot of charging in the village center. So it actually indicated to us that the village center is the thing to go forward with. And then we asked them, how much does it cost per month to have your currency lighting? And you've got a distribution of the lighting, and that's actually from the two sites that we have. So I'll show you a graph of that. So that gives us an indication of the range of the cost you want to charge per kilowatt hour for those villages. And that's actually quite a challenging thing, that you tell them all the time, here's the graph, and actually the graph was there in the management office to tell them what the charges are. Okay, so here's the village. You can see it's a little bit dispersed for our liking, but we did implement for it a mini-grid, and actually I don't have much about the mini-grid. The important issue in relation to mini-grid is the poles, the cables that you have, the control system that you need to have on the poles, and the control system that you need to have in the businesses, basically the metering and also the fees that you need to have. And you need to have that grid, or the mini-grid, to be ready for the main grid when it comes. So those are the criteria that we need to have. So you've got one aspect of it, which is the civil work. The other aspect is how you design, how many people you designed it for. So we designed it for about 500 households and about 50 businesses, and the mini-grid supplied the village centre, and the households get the batteries. And then the system we designed, we tested it in the UK, and we shipped it in 2 containers. We had those shipped, and we arrived on site, and within 7 days we had both the grid and power supply to the businesses in place. And that's actually the statistics that many of the Ministry of Energy officials in Kenya actually think and listen about. How did you do that? We could not manage it ourselves. How did you do it? So they are learning from us how we did it. So the configuration for the canopy that we had, which is intentional. First one is to give a focus to the village, and secondly is to give shade, and third is also to collect water, rainwater, which is important for that area. I'll talk about that in a minute. So for those who are techie, here's the solar panels, here's the building itself. So the 2 containers, this one here, half of it houses the switchgear, the batteries, the charge controllers, the inverters that we have in there, and these are inside that bit. The other side of it is a diesel generator, which so far, after 18 months, we have not used even once to that. And it was something that I really don't want to have, but my team said, yes, we need to have it, because as soon as we incepted the project, or before we went to incept, we heard that one of the charities in the United Arab Emirates is going to donate a maternity ward. And we were concerned that if the energy supply to the village is not good enough, or maybe something went to the batteries, we don't want to have a death or anything that happens in the village in our heads. So we had the backup generator in there. And this other container here is the office. And Ed there can vouch for that, because he's been there a couple of months ago. Ed Brand? John, sorry, John.
Yes.
Where's Ed? Where is Ed?
Yes.
Okay. Right, so here's the inverter charge control. Sorry, John, I got confused with that. Okay, so quite a lot about the technical stuff, which I'm not going to cover that now. So 13.5 kilowatt peak. And we have a generator which is like similar in size. We decided to go for a battery that will allow us to cope with that load from those entities that I mentioned before. So here's the concept for the power supply structure. So an ESCO type community-driven mini-grid to supply the school, health center and churches. We've got 5 churches in that community, and they all pay for their electricity. Trading center, businesses connected directly by wire, and the communities benefit from the charging of their lanterns or any gadgets that they need to have. We also had aspirations to have various tariffs in the village, and we had to abandon those since we realized that many of them really wanted just being one tariff. And the challenge is that the tariff that they wanted is that of Kenya Power, which is extremely low compared to the tariff that we're going to use. Okay, so 3,000, our analysis indicates that we can supply 3,000 people, and we are supplying about half of those at the moment, and in terms of lighting, but the 40 businesses are connected. Income generation for the project is coming in. So the additionality we had, I mentioned that before, which is rain harvesting, which is quite important, 20,000 litres of water from rain coming out for that region. It's actually quite an arid region. And we have a plan now, in combination with the Rural Electrification Authority, to run a 1 kilometer line into a well or solar pumping to augment the water in the village and so forth. And that will create an avenue generation for the community, because we sell the water to the rest of the people around. So we are also scaling this approach by a cluster of communities, about 400 meters from the power station that they wanted to have power directly to their homes. So now they create their own activity in relation to gathering money to pay for the connection fees, and RIA will provide them with the poles. So here, what I think we have achieved so far, we looked at access in terms of affordability, pricing, and project economics. Right? So we had a three-tier already. We already looked at two-tier of charging per kilowatt hour that we have analysis and data on, and in about a month's time, we'll look at the last tier for those. And all the businesses connected, they have a smart card, so any electricity they wanted to use, they have to go and charge the card in the community. We are actually also have the governance sorted out, and operation and maintenance and ownership, community engagement, and that governance issue is being transformed now into something that's being done in other villages in Kenya that we're going to have projects in. The operation independent mechanism, monitoring, evaluation. You can log on to that inverter, or the two inverters that we have in there, from anywhere in the world. You can actually get the data on the power that's produced by the system and so forth. It's available to do that, so no problem at all. And I think the last one, which is very important, is these project templates. For example, now we're doing quite a lot of design work for many other countries who actually looked and came to visit this project, and how they can set up this thing. And we are engaging with the private sector in relation to see whether this project will be quite important for them as a business model. So here's an evening in Ketinyoni when power was off in Wate, which is about 20 kilometers from there, or 25 minutes. So a thriving community now, electricity being provided. 5 new buildings, since we have that, actually were built. We had about 3 or 4 hairdressers that came up. It's quite interesting. All of them wanted to have hair straighteners and things like that, so we have to source them to flow. You got refrigeration by one of the entities in there who provide cool drinks and other bits and pieces for meat. We've got a school that actually have got sewing machines. So it was William actually has got a school that actually teaches girls how to do sewing and things like that. So he's expanding. He's got 3 machines. We also got an internet cafe which opened up recently by a loan from the community, where younger kids come in and get trained in ICT. We also contributed to the democracy element in Kenya last year. There we had 2 people struggling with their solar panel to charge up the laptop to actually get the handprints of people to register for voting. But they were struggling with this, so we brought them in and said, here you go, you can do that. But actually, I just said that it's really nice to say, but it is one of the headaches that actually introduced to our project, in that you got new elections, new people coming in, new dislocation of the various entities that you're working with. A new system of governance. Now there are Kenyans now, counties with the governors and things like that, and they are going to have most of the money that's coming to them, and that's an opportunity for many ways, in my view. So we're talking some governance in that. I think I told you about this, and this is basically about what the project and the cooperative. What we have reported now in terms of benefit, I think we're seeing an increase in household income and also an allocation of younger generation coming in that. We see the invigoration of the trading village as a whole by having new businesses, and new buildings coming up in there. And the sub-location development in relation to enhancing what has come in as a trading process within that community. And I think the impact currently we are establishing, we've got a team of about 4 from the UK and about 14 from Kenya doing the end-line survey in those 2 villages. And that team will provide us with more of the evidence that I think the project is actually working in terms of the benefit to health, to jobs, and also poverty alleviation. So here's the project timeline. We had the baseline survey done 2010-11, first village 2012, system monitoring ongoing. We have outputs as we go along. For example, this meeting is an output of the project. Network formation, so we have quite a lot of interesting people who are on the network. We installed 2 villages so far, one in Cameroon, which I'll talk about very quickly, and the other one was supposed to be due last year in Kenya, and I mentioned the issue with regard to personnel change, that we could not really deliver it in September. So the paperwork is likely to be signed up this month for the next project, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And then the 4th village, which we're talking about with Uganda. So we had quite a lot of meeting from the rural electrification of Uganda. And these people are interested not only in rural communities, but also in the islands in the Lake Victoria, that they wanted to actually provide them with power through there. And we're doing the inline survey as we speak. And you're all invited to a major international conference I hope we're going to have next year. The project still allows it, but hopefully it will allow it. So here's Katinyani, I just talked to you about, 13.5 kilowatt. In Cameroon, we had a student project which is running to build schools for villages in Cameroon, and one of the schools happened to be in Bambuti in Cameroon, 1,500 kilometers from the capital. I can't remember the capital now. And actually, somebody could say a nano, whatever it is, a nano grid. So it's only 3 or 4 entities being connected, but there's a charging station for all the communities. There's also an educational aspect of it. So our students go every month and they have an interaction with the community. This is going to expand hopefully in the next 6 months to a mini grid. And the last one that we're going to do in Kenya is in Olieka, and that's a partnership with us and the Rural Electrification Authority. We are going to be supplying them the power generation system, and you're going to do the mini grid or the infrastructure for that. So basically making more pounds to go further than to be. And this is in a community. I mean, one of the things that people somehow miss to maybe appreciate or perhaps convey is that we're talking about rural communities as if they are people like you and I who can actually go on to Sainsbury's and buy whatever food you wanted to have. The ability to pay is a major factor, whatever we do. Okay? And we realized that straight away from those communities that we have surveyed. And we deliberately went into Katinyani and Mwani because they have similar characteristics in terms of ability to pay. Olieka is very different. So when we did an initial survey for Olieka, their ability to pay is about 3 or 4 times that of Katinyani. And I think that's the thing that we need to test as well in the next phase of the project. So as a summary, I think we succeeded in building capacity in relation to the managerial and governance issues and the technical aspect of that. So we have one person who lives in the village who is technically able to fix any of the problems that they have. There's one in the near town who can come on a call. There's one lined up on a day call in Nairobi for that, for technical support. So far we didn't need that. The project sustainability is guaranteed because we know what the income is coming. So there's enough healthy income that's available in the bank or the cooperative to allow them within 5 years to replace the battery if they need to. The batteries were designed to last 15 to 20 years. So, but there is enough in the kitty for them to do that. And our analysis estimate, according to the cost per kilowatt hour, that the project will pay for itself between 8 to 12 years. And depending on what we charge per electricity. And we have a new project that are currently being tested in combination of partnership. Basically, I mentioned to you the Rural Electrification Authority and in Kenya and also in Uganda, which we have designed already the system for them. We identified the sites from the information they gave us. So the Ugandans took it down now to 2 sites, and hopefully within 2 or 3 weeks we will get an agreement signed up. In Olyeka, which I mentioned before, that's already been signed up, except that we need to get the tender committee to sign off the tender, which they have to do for the local stuff that need to be done. And we're thinking now of fully funded public projects. So in the Royal Electrification Authority in Kenya, we're designing for them the original design 60 kilowatt peak photovoltaic to support between 5,000 to 10,000 inhabitants around the community. We're also looking at development banks. So we're looking at the Islamic Development Bank, which got a program with this type of activity. So we design about 5 villages, higher capacities, 100, 150 kilowatt of PV and diesel generation. And that's actually being done in place. And that's through loans, 25 years, 0.5 to 1.5%, with about 3 years grace for payment. So here's the final bit of the project. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I thank all the funders for that.
What we'll do is we will break for tea and coffee now, and then we'll have the 2 other presentations and have a question and answer session together for us. Because otherwise we are eating out of time for coffee. Coffee will be taken out. Otherwise,